Yamunatiravanachari Yamunatiravanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parujikacharya Ashtotar the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajikacharya Ashtotar the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavindra Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 26th day of February 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 5 entitled Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. Text number 18 at the top of page 246. Sureshwar, you got it there? All right. Vidya, Vinaya, Sampanne, Brahmane, Gabihastini, Shuni, Chaiva, Swapake, Cha, Panditaha, Samadarshinaha, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, Brahmane Gabihastini, Shunichaiva Swapake Cha, Pandita Samadarshinaha, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, Brahmane Gabihastini Shunichaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshinaha Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gabihastini Shunichaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshinaha. Dhamraj. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gabihastini Shunichaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshinaha. Tapas, you want to try? Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gabihastini Shunichaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshinaha. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gabihastini Shunichaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshinaha. Anyone else want to try? No. Okay. Anyone online there? No. Okay. Vidya, with education, vinaya, and gentleness, sampanne, fully equipped. Brahmane, in the brahmana, Gabi, in the cow, Hastini, in the elephant, Shuni, in the dog, Cha, and Eva, certainly, Swapake, in the dog eater, the outcast, Cha, respectively, Panditaha, those who are wise, Samadarshinaha, who see with equal vision. Translation. The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater, outcast. Purport. A Krishna-conscious person does not make any distinction between species or castes. The Brahman and the outcast may be different from the social point of view, or a dog, a cow, and an elephant may be different from the point of view of species. But these differences of body are meaningless from the viewpoint of a learned transcendentalist. This is due to their relationship to the Supreme. For the Supreme Lord, by His plenary portion as the Paramatma, is present in everyone's heart. Such an understanding of the Supreme is real knowledge. As far as the bodies are concerned, in different castes or different species of life, the Lord is equally kind to everyone, because He treats every living being as a friend, yet maintains Himself as Paramatma, regardless of the circumstances of the living entities. The Lord as Paramatma is present both in the outcast and in the Brahman, although the body of a Brahman and that of an outcast are not the same. The bodies are material productions of different modes of material nature. But the soul and the supersoul within the body are of the same spiritual quality. The similarity in the quality of the soul and the supersoul, however, does not make them equal in quantity. For the individual soul is present only in that particular body, whereas the Paramatma is present in each and every body. A Krishna-conscious person has full knowledge of this, and therefore he is truly learned and has equal vision. The similar characteristics of the soul and the supersoul are that they are both conscious, eternal, and blissful. But the difference is that the individual soul is conscious within the limited jurisdiction of the body, whereas the supersoul is conscious of all bodies. The supersoul is present in all bodies without distinction. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So this is an often quoted verse. And on the basis of this verse and others, similar verses, Srila Prabhupada came to America and preached Krishna consciousness to the souls who are here at present in this part of the earth, not making the distinction that, oh, they're not, certainly not Brahminical, they're not qualified to hear because they're all low-born and they're always disturbed and they're covered and they're a million miles away from Krishna consciousness. No, he saw that human beings in this part of the planet are equally eligible to receive the knowledge. This is one of the amazing things about Krishna consciousness, that there's really no discrimination or barring of anyone, any human being who is inquisitive about spiritual life, who is open to hear and open to take up the process. This was Lord Chaitanya's great revolution. You had the caste system in India, right? And the Brahmins felt that they had a monopoly on spiritual life, on studying the Vedas, certainly. There's even a law, a rule that in the days gone by, that Shudras and I think women basically weren't allowed to chant the Vedic mantras and, all these things. So, so seeing everyone equally, that's the vision of God. The vision of God. He sees everyone as his son, as a descendant, because they're all spirit souls. Now, of course, we have different bodies, and therefore, the fact that you see the spirit soul in everyone, and you regard them as part and parcel of God, which is what's talking about here. Every body, whatever species, is a temple of God. But only the human beings can really realize that, because they have the bigger brain substance. The animals and the insects and so forth, they can't understand. They can benefit indirectly. I like to refer, many years ago, I think maybe you were too young to understand what was going on. We had a cat. They gave him a name, Narada Muni, you remember. And I objected, no, you can't call the cat Narada Muni, but it was too late. He was already answering to that name. So naturally, cats, they love milk, So this cat developed a tremendous taste for kheer, maha kheer, that we offer, the condensed milk. So every day, if they forgot, I would get a little on a leaf and put it out, and he would faithfully come there and take that mahaprasadam, So we understand from the Shastra that such a fortunate creature, by taking that mahaprasadam, is going to get a human birth in his next life, probably, to taste mahaprasadam again. In other words, a devotee will help, and we understand the trees that we pick these flowers from and then offer to Prabhupada or offer to the deities. They're very, very fortunate trees. Their offering is being made to the Lord. So they'll probably become human beings in this life, good devotees. So this equal vision comes because the learned, the humble sages, these are the panditas, the real pandit. It means a devotee who is steeped in knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita and other Shastra, and understands these points, that essentially we're all equal on the spiritual platform, which is the essential platform. Now, it doesn't mean that he's dealing with all of these different persons and animals equally. He's not going to deal in the same way with the cow as he deals with the vidya vinaya sampanne brahmana. This is the brahmana who is full of knowledge and is gentle and fully, he'll deal differently. But there's a certain equality there, and there's certainly no sense that, oh, I'll exploit this one. I can eat the cow, and I can use the elephant to do some manual work or something. That may also be there, but the work is for Krishna. He's understanding that this organism, if you would call it, living entity, is sacred because it's part and parcel of God. And this should be the vision of the devotee as well, the samadarshana. If you study what's going on in the world, you see that there's a tremendous identification with the race, with the place of birth, with the language, and all of the different things. This is why Prabhupada, when he came to America, he came to New York. What did he find? The United Nations, right? The United Nations was there. So we would often use that as a point. the war was going on, the war meaning the Vietnamese war in Vietnam, middle of the 60s. And there was a periodic peace movements, and the people he was speaking to were also often concerned about that. The young people were very, anti-war for the most part, certainly in New York. And so Prabhupada was sensitive to that, and he would comment on the United Nations because he was there. He was, aware during World War II, the tremendous war that was going on and all the casualties and the suffering. And that what came out of that, one of the things that came out of it was the United Nations, an attempt to have a forum where we could speak and avoid the next war. The whole idea was somehow or other we could cooperate better and not have these horrible wars. That was one of the reasons for the United Nations, and it was centered in New York City. So, but Prabhupada would make the point that what is it really working? Well, it wasn't working. You had the Vietnam War, and you had other wars, also little wars here and there. Luckily there was no world war, another world war, but still, it's not really causing peace. So what is it? The flags are increasing. He would say all they're doing is increasing the flags. I used to say the building, they have, outside, they have all the flags of the nations that are part of the United Nations. You can see it, 20, 30, 40, whatever it was, 100. I don't know how many it is now, but it's more. So what does that mean? It means you're still maintaining your material designation. I'm the German, and I'm the South American, and the African, and all these different things. In other words, you're not seeing each other equally, and there's a sense of judging on the externals, on the body, on the external, which is the first lesson of Krishna consciousness. You're not the body, Just because I'm born in America and you're born in India, then there's no essential difference. Essentially, we're the same. We're all part and parcel of Krishna. We're all servants of Krishna. And it's a wonderful thing when you get to go. Many of you have been to Mayapur, yeah, and you go for the festival, and you see all the devotees from there's 100 devotees from China. There's 150 devotees from Russia. There's not as many American devotees as there used to be because it's more expensive to go there from here. From Russia, it's like maybe 400 or 500 max. Anyway. But you see the actual international nature of this movement. It truly is International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And on the basis of that, in the middle of the kirtan, no one is thinking, oh, he's just a Chinese Vaishnava. Wait a minute, Everyone's Haribol, on the platform of pure Krishna Consciousness. So that's the vision of the Pandit. That one who is learned, he understands these external bodies. It's no more important than I have a red jacket on and you have a dark gray one on, so we're enemies. It's ridiculous. It's the same thing with the external body. It's often compared to a coat, right? A coat and a shirt. The shirt is the subtle body, the internal one, and the coat is the external body. So that's what this is all about. And Prabhupada makes the point. The quality of the soul and the super soul. The super soul kind of unites us all because it's the same super soul in all of us, and he's relating to each soul in a similar way. He's giving knowledge, remembrance, forgetfulness, right? He's sanctioning our work. He's trying to give us good instruction, but we can't hear him because we're covered by the modes of nature. So Prabhupada would sometimes mention how that voice of conscience, when you have certain, I know this is the wrong thing to do, but I still want to do it. But a little voice inside is saying, no, you shouldn't do it. That's the super soul. But the more that you ignore that, the less you hear it. If you say, well, forget it, I don't care, I need this, then you're in a worse place. It's best if you have that moral, compass that is guiding you in the right way, and you're more sensitive. And that's one of the things that education does. Just on a material level, to try to impart a sense of what is right and what is wrong. The problem is that in creating the laws and the books and the rules, we're not referring to the ultimate books of knowledge. What is the absolute good, you see? And then, if we were, then we would be closer to the actual instructions of Super Soul of Krishna, and there'd be more peace and harmony in the world. But everyone is creating his own thing, and it's all the perverted reflection. This concept is great. There were laws in this world, but it's a perverted reflection of the original Shastra and the original, thing. So part of what Srila Prabhupada tried to establish was the acceptance, at least in some subset of human beings, of the law, the direction, the absolute direction that's coming directly from Krishna, from God, because that's for our ultimate good. That's for our ultimate good. And oftentimes we'll see it goes against what our conditioned self is saying. You want to do this and enjoy the sense gratification, but we know now from hearing from the authority, no, this will ultimately be self-defeating. This will ultimately cause you more pain. You get a little tickle of sense gratification, but then the price is enormous, I mean, I give the example of my own poor life. I remember when McDonald's was founded, when the first McDonald's. It was like in the early 60s, I think it was. And suddenly we would go bowling, and suddenly where we went bowling, right near there was a McDonald's. So we go there first and have some, fries and a burger, like that. It was just like, that's what we did. No one was conscious at all that it was the wrong thing to do. We shouldn't do it, But with the knowledge, because that's what pundit means. When you read, or not even just transcendental knowledge, just understanding the tremendous suffering that's caused by that a sensitive person would say, oh, forget it, I'll become a vegetarian. A lot of people become vegetarians on that ethical basis. There's ethical basis, there's health basis, there's saving the planet. That's a big thing. Because it's true that the vast slaughterhouses and things, not just of cows and the chickens and everything, it's a tremendous burden on the environment. Creating so much methane and everything go into it. But that's not at all in your, it's not taken into consideration. It's just that I'm hungry and it tastes good, and in those days it was like under $1 for a hamburger. I'm going to have it. So that's ignorance. But knowledge means that, oh, I understand that this is horrible. This is a poor animal. I remember as a kid, just being, sensitive kid, the hamburgers and all things, I didn't flinch because I couldn't see that it was coming from an animal. But we'd also have chicken. And I would see, oh, there's a bird. And even as a young kid, I said, I don't want to have that poor bird, And I got over it, and, but I became more of a demon, So the knowledge that we get from Krishna, from the books and from practicing Krishna consciousness, can bring us more into tune with Krishna's plan, which is that don't cause any suffering for any living being, if at all possible, But then there's this whole thing. Well, we're going to anyway, even by accident, right? You're going to light a fire and you're going to kill some bugs, So therefore, you need a way to neutralize the sinful reaction that you're daily performing, killing. And that's why it's important to have some sadhana, to have, chanting Hare Krishna, worshiping Krishna, so that you're keeping the slate clean day by day, purifying more and more. So this is an important verse to see how we should see everything on the spiritual platform, and any living being that we see. Oh, okay, this is a soul that's maybe an unfortunate body of the dog, But I'm seeing the super soul there. He's also guiding. Krishna's everywhere. He's doing everything. That's the vision of the actual pundit, of the devotee. Samadarshana, seeing with equal vision, not making all distinctions on the basis of the body, the background, language, the socioeconomic, all of this. That's what's being mentioned here. Okay. Any comments, questions on this verse? Yes, Prabhu.
So in this verse it says that a learned man, someone that's learned,
Pundit,
can see the equalness in all life forms, whether it's a tree, an animal, a human,
or a Brahman.
So I've also heard that the Vedic system of how they rank animals, like a cow is higher than a horse, and a horse is higher than a dog is higher than a pig, and it goes all the way down. So how is it that there is a scale of one animal to the next, but here it's saying that someone that sees God in everybody sees them all as equal?
Yes, I try to mention that on one level, you're seeing the spiritual equality of everything, but because of the difference in the qualities of the different, you're just dealing with the animals. How the cow is such a valuable animal, you know, and you take care of them, whereas the wild hogs, you don't take care of them. You try to avoid them in the forest because they're dangerous, you know, but you don't unnecessarily cause them any pain. You're seeing the equality, but at the same time you're seeing the difference, and you have to deal with each according to their different qualities. So there's two things going on. You're seeing the divinity in everyone, because the super soul is there and the soul is there, and you can feel compassion, you know, for the poor dog that's on the street, you know. That's why, you know, give him a little prasadam, say Hare Krishna. It'll have some, you know, Haridas Thakur. He would recommend that you chant loudly, because he himself, what I understood in some cases, he would chant 1/3 of his rounds, 192, so 64, he would chant loudly, and another 64 he would chant just by saying on the, you know, by the lips, and then 64 in his mind. But he would also do those loud ones. Sometimes he would go around. He would be chanting to the plants and everything, you know, understanding that on one level they're benefiting from that because there's soul there. So the point is that yes, you have to deal with obviously an elephant different from a cow, you see, but at the same time you see the equality, and as far as possible you deal with them equally and try not to cause any suffering if necessary. That's what it means here. You see.
So this is speaking in reference to the spiritual aspect,
yes,
that the super soul is within every soul, and that someone that sees the super soul within every soul, they are the
we normally say the super soul and the soul are both in the body, around the heart area.
Right.
It's not that the super soul is in the soul. There's two separate souls. They don't mix. But there's two, as Krishna says in the 13th chapter, Chaitra Gyam Chapimat Vindhi, you should know that I am also the Chaitra Gya. It's a very nice word for soul. It means the knower of the field. Body is like a field of your consciousness where you're working. So there's two knowers, Krishna as the super soul and the individual soul, side by side. And advancement of Krishna consciousness means to be more and more in tune with the desires and the instruction of the super soul, which we can't hear directly, you know, until we're very, very advanced, but we can hear indirectly through the Bhagavad Gita, through the Shastra, and through the gurus.
So if I see that the cow, this like the soul, the super soul that's within the soul of the cow, yeah? Did I say that right?
Super soul that's within the body of the cow,
but there you
along
go.
with the soul who's in the also in the body of the cow.
And then I see the pig or the hog, right? But then if I'm able to acknowledge that the super soul, that Krishna is within both of those, why would I treat the pig any different from the cow?
Because they themselves are conditioned in different ways. And they have different qualities. The cow, after all, is giving tremendous service by giving milk, and the bull is pulling the plow, you know. So both the male and female cow are rendering tremendous service. And how? In the terms of raising, you know, creating food or foodstuffs that can then be offered to the deity. So there's a reason why Krishna loved the cows so much. He could be a cowboy, cow herd boy. Because the cow is such an important animal that gives milk, and the milk comes the ghee, and from the ghee, we make ghee wicks and we offer to the deity. So the cow is a special animal, obviously, and but that doesn't mean that the other animals should be neglected or tormented or whatever. You know, in their own level, on their own way. We should treat them kindly, understanding they're coming through the species, and they can, you know, eventually come to the human form of life. There's this whole principle of ahimsa. Ahimsa is not the full message of the Bhagavad Gita. That was a mistake. Gandhi was trying to, you know. After all, the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, Arjuna is reformed. You know, he's convinced. He says, "Karashe vachanang tava," I will do as you say, which means they're going to fight. They're going to be all this bloodshed. You know, you can't screw out some ahimsa as an absolute principle from the Bhagavad Gita. But it is a characteristic of devotees when there's no need to fight, when there's no need to fight to cause Dharma to be ascendant again. You see, this is the reason why it was important to fight. Because Yudhishthira was personified Dharma, and the other side were nasty. They tried to, usurp the kingdom and take over. And so there had to be a fight. But in the case of, there's this dual, let me say, the essential vision is that we're all one, we're all spiritual, all part and parcel of Krishna. But in the practical dealings, we have to see, oh, this person has a skill. This human being has a skill that can be used, especially in a certain way in serving Krishna. So we try to engage them in that way, And then the lower animals, they can't understand the philosophy, but we can still treat them kindly, and we try to give them some connection to Krishna through prasadam or something like that. And we just basically, Haribol. All right, why don't we go on? Ihavatarjitak sargo. All right. Try it again. Ihavatarjitak sargo. Yeshang samye stitam manaha. Nirdosham hi samam brahma. Tasma brahmanite stitaha. All right, we're going to hear a lot about Brahma now, practically every verse. Anyway, those whose minds are established in sameness, these are the Samadarshana Pandits, those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman. Purport: equanimity of mind, as mentioned above, is the sign of self-realization. Those who have actually attained to such a stage should be considered to have conquered material conditions, specifically birth and death. As long as one identifies with this body, he is considered a conditioned soul. But as soon as he is elevated to the stage of equanimity through realization of self, he is liberated from conditional life. In other words, he is no longer subject to taking birth in the material world, but can enter into the spiritual sky after his death. The Lord is flawless because he is without attraction or hatred. Similarly, when a living entity is without attraction or hatred, he also becomes flawless and eligible to enter into the spiritual sky. Such persons are to be considered already liberated, and their symptoms are described below. So this idea of duality, this is a very important concept, is that in the conditioned life, we're always making judgments on the basis of what is pleasing or displeasing to our gross or subtle body, to our mind or senses like that. This is duality, heat and cold, pleasure and pain. Matra sparshasta kaunteya. We learn at the beginning of Gita, this like third or fourth verse of Krishna's instruction in the second chapter, that Matra sparshasta kaunteya shitoshna sugaduka da agama payano tam tatikshasva bharata. That if you want to even enter into the path of Krishna consciousness, of bhakti, then you have to learn to be tolerant of the dualities of this world. He gives examples. Matra sparshas means the contact with the object of the senses. Matra sparshas, shita ushna, gives rise to dualities such as heat and cold, happiness and distress. Shita ushna sukha dukkha da. Agama bayano, they come and they go. They're just as temporary as sense gratification. These are the concept senses. It's all flowing by, by time. At a certain period of time, you have the opportunity to enjoy the senses contact, but then time passes and you no longer have that opportunity. Same thing with pain, comes and goes. So, tam satiksha sabharata. You have to learn to tolerate these without being disturbed. You have to be dhira. Tam satiksha. Shito sugduga agama payano nityam tasmad, you have to become equipoised. Then he says, Yaminabadiyante te purusham purushashaba samadukha sukham dhiram. Somitadvaya kalpade, his word dhira comes in. It says, one who can remain equipoised even in these dualities, such a person alone is eligible for liberation. Because the whole problem is this sense of duality that we get absorbed in when we leave the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, there's a oneness there. Everything is spiritual. Everything is directly related to Krishna. We see, it's all pure and Satchidananda. But when we leave, when we turn away, here's this verse again. Bhayam dvitiya abhinaveshidaksya. The word dvitiya abhinaveshidak means absorbed in the dualities of this world. As soon as we turn our back on Krishna, then we looking over this world of the different modes and everything, what's pleasurable, what's painful, and all this stuff, you see. And we're caught in that syndrome. And that gives us great fear, because we don't feel the protection of Krishna. And we're caught up in the maelstrom of the material world. And there's always fear. The sense gratification and the illusion of safety, all helps us to try to forget our tremendous vulnerability in this world. We're helpless, with not enough air, not enough food, too much heat, not enough heat. There's a million different things that can make us uncomfortable and threaten our existence in these bodies. The bodies are just very fragile machines. So that's what happens when you leave. You become absorbed in the dualities, and Isha Petasa. Isha means turning away from the Isha, from God. Turning away. Isha Petasa. Viparhiyo asmati. Everything becomes reversed. Instead of being a servant of God, you try to become the master of the material world. You see? So you're upside down. Asmati, and you forget everything. Asmati. Smriti means remembrance. Asmati means just the opposite. So what causes this? Maya. Krishna's Maya energy. The expansion of Yoga Maya is Mahamaya. And her job is to cover your knowledge and to throw you down into the material world. To teach you a lesson. This is not your home. This is not a good idea, So Tanmayato, Buddha, those who are intelligent, Abhajetam, should again worship Krishna. Turn back toward Krishna. And then what? Bhakti Aikayesham, worship him with one-pointed devotional service. Aikayesham, Guru Devatatma, regarding the Guru as one's very self. In other words, under direction, under guidance of the realized soul. So the whole fall and path to redemption is right there in that one verse. 11th canto, I think, is part of the Bhagavad Gita, or it may be instruction of the 9 Yogendras. I'm not sure, but a very important verse. So this is describing now the state. One who established in sameness and equanimity, the Pandita Samadarshana from previous verse, have conquered the conditions of birth and death. Because if you're not, if you're able to see beyond the dualities and have the sameness of vision, then you can keep your equanimity and your self-control and your mind control, so you can keep your mind on Krishna even in the most difficult positions. And we have so many examples of that. Right in the morning, we're reading about Prahlad Maharaj. He's an ideal example. He was tormented by his father. And his position looks like he's helpless, but actually he's the most powerful because he's protected by Krishna. So no matter what they tried to do to him, they couldn't disturb him. Not only couldn't they kill him, but they couldn't even disturb his mind, his meditation. He's so fixed. Very, very strong. He looks like a little child, but he's powerful. And when the first opportunity he gets, he does the most dangerous thing, and that is to preach. That is to preach this lesson to the other. They're not really demoniac. That's what it was in the demoniac friends. They're not demonic yet. They're being trained. They're trying to make them demons. But they're malleable, and they listen to that. And they respect Prahlad like anything, and so they're listening. And he's teaching them how they can actually come to the point of safety and happiness, security, by practicing Krishna consciousness. And he was an example of that, how he was equipoised in every situation. This is explained. Some of you who've heard in my classes, there are different ashtakas that I noticed in the Bhagavatam. The first one was the Sadhu Sangashtaka. The 8 verses describing the importance of associating with sadhus. This is Kapila Dev preaching to his mother, teaching his mother. And he starts off, Prasangam Madanam Pasham Atmana Kavayo Vadusa Hesha Sadhushakato Moksha Dwaram Apavatam. That prasanga, it's good to explore the Sanskrit. It's such a wonderful language. We know about sangha. It's an English word, satsanga. I guarantee it's in the latest English satsang, right? What does it mean? Sangha is association. Two meanings, association and attachment. And they're always related. What you associate with, you become attached to, you become affected by. So here, satsanga, it says, prasangam means strong attachment to Maya. Ajaram pasham, a very powerful rope. You know, attachments, gross and subtle, normal, conditioned soul. This is what we have. Atmana kavayo vidu, the soul is thus attached. But the kavis, again, this is the Buddhas, these are the intelligent vidu, they know to take that same attachment and turn it toward the sadhus. Pasangam atmana kavayo saesha sadhu sukrito, toward the sadhus. And that moksha dvaram aparvatam. I put this first one, this is the verse into a little poem. Mundane affection, or attraction, mundane attraction keeps us tied to birth and death infernal. But love for sadhus opens wide the doors to life eternal. Right? So this is the whole, this is why Prabhupada, he took so much pain to come here and give us his association. Personally, and eventually through his books, recordings, everything. Murti, all different ways to give association. So what's the result? So now the question is, who was the sadhu? He's telling his mother, you should associate with sadhus, because he's the greatest sadhu, but he's teaching all of us. Now we got to find that sadhu. So he gives 3 or 4 verses describing the qualities of the sadhus and the activities of sadhus. And then the next verse is this famous verse, Titikshava Karunika Suridak Sarvadehinam Ajata Shatravak Shantha Sadhavak Sarubhushana. It's a very famous verse. The first thing is tolerance. That's the thing. Titikshava and compassion for the conditioned souls. Titikshava Karunika. Because if you're going to show compassion to the conditioned souls and preach, you got to be tolerant. First example is Jesus Christ. Prabhupada would say, you had to be tolerant. Forgive them, they don't know what they're doing. Like that. You had to tolerate. So, Suridak Sarvada, the friend of every living entity. We're back to this Samadarshana. You see? You don't hurt anyone if possible, and if possible, give them Krishna consciousness. Be kind, like that. That's the Krishna conscious attitude. The friend of all. Rupa and Sanatan, everyone loved them. Right? The Dira and the Adira. This is in the song, because they were giving for everyone. They hated no one. They had nothing. They didn't, obviously, were trying to exploit, Titikshava Karunika Suridak Sarvadehinam. All the Dehinams means those who have are in Dehas. Those are the living entities within the body. They're known as Dehinam. So you're the friend of all. Ajatash, and because of that, you have no enemies. You don't have any enmity toward others. That's what this means. But Hiranyakashipu saw Prahlada as his archenemy because he was threatening the foundation of everything. So that doesn't mean that some may not hate you and see you as an enemy, but you don't have any enmity toward anyone. Ajata Shatravak, and therefore Shanta, you're peaceful at heart. You can have a peaceful heart. Sadhavak, these are the ornaments of a sadhu. Now the interesting thing there, it doesn't mention bhakti in that particular verse. That's in the next verse. How do you get to be that way? So Kapila Deva is speaking. Kapila Deva is Krishna in incarnation. So it says, "My ananyena bhavena bhaktim kurvanti yedvidham." There's very, essential truth spoken concisely is true eloquence. The whole Bhagavatam is filled with verses like this. So he's saying, "My ananyena bhavena bhaktim," rendering devotional service to me, says Kapila Deva, to Krishna. Ananyena bhavena, without deviation, meaning being completely fixed all the time. Bhaktim kurvanti yedvidham, with great determination, because we know in the process of devotional service there are so many distractions and temptations and challenges. So you have to have determination. Maya ananyena bhavena bhaktim kurvanti yedvidham. Let's say, Matkrite chakta karma nat chakta swajana bandhana. For my sake, giving up any activity that you may be attached to, that's not good for devotional service. And even breaking the ties to your friends and relatives, that if it's counter to devotional service. And that's the whole principle of taking sannyas, leaving the household, which we learn in the morning classes, could be a tremendous attachment. You know, the wife, the children, the money, the relatives, all these things. You know, it's like a blind well. You know, it can be a blind well. So that's there. Then what do you do? Marashya ktam rishta shinvandi katayandicha. Such a devotee, he's always hearing and chanting the sweet, ecstatic vibrations describing me. Marashya. In this case means it's a metaphor. Sound vibrations that have taken shelter of me. Marashya katam rishta. Rishta means very sweet and pleasant. Shinvandi katayandicha. And what's the result? Tapanti vivadastapan naitan magata chetasa, that they don't feel the pains of material life as much because their mind is absorbed in me. Prabhupada gave an example. This will be a surprise to you if you're listening. Who showed this? The tolerance of physical pain, you know? Stalin. We're going to try Stalin as an example. But he heard about this. He had to have an operation on his stomach at one point, but he was always afraid that his enemies would assassinate him. You know, so he refused any anesthesia. So you can do the operation; it'll be perfect. You know, I'll be able to take it. So somehow, you know, he grinned and bore it, as it were. I don't know. So here's an example, but. You know, the better example, you know, this is a perfect example Prabhupada gave it, but we have so many examples in Srila Prabhupada himself, what he tolerated, physical suffering, you know, all kinds of things, you know, just to come to America, you know, and all, you know, but he never flinched, you know, he had a return ticket on the boat, you know, but he never used it. He never gave up. You know, he's walking the streets of Manhattan trying to sell his books. You know, the tolerance must be very tremendous. But Marashya Katamrishta, always chanting Hare Krishna, you're always in that transcendental mood of bliss and contact with Krishna, and you can tolerate anything. You know, the 6 Goswamis, they were wandering around. They don't have a home. Talk about being homeless. They didn't even claim a tree. This is my tree. No, a different tree every night. You know, yeah. And what did they eat? You know, a little whatever they could beg, a few chapatis, you know, like that. But they were the most blissful on the earth. Gopi bhavana samratabdalahadi magno moha. Again and again, swimming and diving in the ocean of bliss of the gopis' love for Krishna, which is the highest level of bhakti. So it goes on, and then he says, you should search out these sadhus, because by their association, this I forget the exact Sanskrit of this verse, you will negate or nullify the bad effects of previous bad association. And Prabhupada refers to the Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter. There's a verse about how to surrender there. Oh God, I haven't chanted. Yeah, I got to chant a chapter a day. All right, I got the book in front of me. It's right near the beginning of chapter 15. Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha, conquering over the doshas, the faults that come from sangha, bad association. Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinavita kama dvanvaiva mukta sukadukka sangha gachancha mudha padamabhyayang tat. Having conquered over all of these bad associations, you'll go through here, and then you go back to Godhead at the end of the verse. So I won't go through this whole verse, but the whole idea is that by this good association, you will nullify all of the bad effects of previous bad association. So then comes the most famous verse, and this verse is really near the top of quoted verses. Satam prasangan mama virya sambido bhavanti ritkana rasayana kata tadjoshanarasu abavarga vartmane shraddha ratir bhakta anukramishidi. This is like practically the whole movement is based on this verse. So satam prasangan. Here's that word prasanga again. Now the whole ashtaka began with the word prasanga. But in that context, it meant very strong association with the asadhus. Prasangam ajanam pasham. And a strong attachment. So that's what you're overcoming by good association. So now we're at the middle of it. This is the 5th verse. Satam, that's the sats, that's the sadhus. By this satam prasangan, by strong, meaningful association with sadhus, What's the most important thing? To hear, to be focused and hear and take in the, shushu means ardent hearing, submissive all reception. So you're in an association of sadhus, and you're listening, you're hearing their katha. What are you going to hear? Kapila Dev, Krishna says you're going to hear about me. Satam prasangan mama virya sambito. You'll hear talks about my activities and qualities. Mama virya. Bhavanti ritkhan rasayana katha. And such sound vibrations are nectar, ambrosia for the ear and the heart. Rit karna rasayana. Rasayana is a life-giving elixir. This sound vibration, pure sound vibration about Krishna. Bhavanti rit karna, heart, ear, rit karna rasayana katha. And then it goes on. Tadjoshanad, applying this process, which is meeting together and glorifying Krishna, the essence of which is Sankirtan. You chant, I hear, I chant, you hear the holy name. That's the essence. But it expands into all these books and everything. But Karna Vasayana, Kata Joshanat Ashu Apavargavatmani. So quickly, Ashu, applying this path to liberation, Apavargavatmani. What happens? You Shraddha, Ratir, Bhaktir, Anukurmishati. Step by step, you increase, you deepen your faith, your attraction for Krishna, and your bhakti, which means your love for Krishna. They develop on the basis of this association. That's the whole thing is based on that. And you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is really the central mood of this movement, is there in the CC. The chanting of the holy names, the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, preaching to everybody and saving, and inspiring. So you see the incredible experiences that you in the kirtans, of course, but also in the meeting and talking about Krishna and Lord Chaitanya's life and pastimes in the Jagannath Puri. There's so many beautiful sound vibrations. You can live in that, and practically you have no material needs that you feel. So then it goes on, 2 more verses that it describes, thus developing vairagya. It's important vairagya, right? You're not attached to the material anymore, you're attached to Krishna by this hearing and chanting, you see. And then eventually, the last verse, and then eventually you come to me in the spiritual world. So it all starts with association with sadhus and becoming a sadhu ourselves. So he's describing that here. Those whose minds are established in the same equanimity have already conquered the condition of birth and death. They're flawless like Brahman, and thus they're already situated in Brahman. And this theme now of achieving Brahman is going to even the word Brahman Nirvana comes in here. It's interesting because he's talking about transcending the dualities of this world, and this Brahman realization, we don't aspire for it. But it's often given in the 18th chapter as a platform to attain bhakti. Brahma bhuta prasannatma nasochati nakanchati samak sarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labhate param. One who is on this Brahman platform, which is beyond the modes of nature, basically. Prasannatma is always joyful. Nasochati nakanchati, the proof is doesn't lament for anything, doesn't hanker for anything in this world. That doesn't lament means you're very tolerant. Any loss or insult or anything, who cares, And no kanchati, you don't hanker for anything material, you're hankering for Krishna. Samak sarveshu bhuteshu, same theme, he sees all living entities equally. And in that state of equanimity and transcendence, madbhaktim labhate param, he attains devotion to me. So that's a preliminary, and we're going to hear more and more about the Brahman here. Oh boy, we ran out of time. Where did time go? All right, so we'll do text 20 tomorrow, and I left a little time for a poem. It's the dessert. Okay, I think I have a finite number of poems, so you probably heard this one before, but this one has a special quality because Giriraj Swami heard it at a japa retreat that I was at. And later on, he wrote me. He wanted to get the verse, so he may quote it in a class. I don't know. It's a famous verse that Prabhupada would often cite, but he liked the poem part of it. So it says like this. Vidachay mai dandam dina bando dayangba gatadihana bhavakta kachadandya mamasti nipatata shatakoti nimalang bang the bang bus nan the bambus Tadapikilapayodaks tuyate chatakena. Chata is a special bird that only drinks the water. His only sustenance is the water that falls from the cloud. If it strikes the ground, it's too impure, so he just has that pure water. Well, you can only get it so often, so he's always praying to the cloud. The Chataka subsists on rain it catches in midair. And so it's always praying to the cloud to send its fare. Fare is like what you eat. Yet though that cloud may send a thunderbolt instead of rain, that bird continues praying fervently despite the pain. Just like the Chataka, I fix my mind upon one goal, and that is you, O Lord, most kind to every fallen soul. So whether it is punishment you send, or mercy sweet, I'll always pray to you for service to your lotus feet. So a very important principle there is that this is the Tatte Nukampam Susimikramam. There's a really famous verse where the attitude of the pure devotee is that whatever happens, good or bad, if bad things happen, you get a disease or something, like that. It says, oh, Krishna's so kind. It could have been much worse. I remember, like when I first joined, we all have a stint in the kitchen and we're cutting vegetables, and sometimes you get a little cut. Oh, okay, that's why they have first aid, right? Okay. So you told okay, you got a cut, but your karma was telling you you're going to lose a finger there, and you just got a cut. So be thankful to Krishna. That's the mood of this verse. And then on the other side, when good things happen, you get better from a disease, or you get inheritance, or whatever happens, So, oh, Krishna's so kind. He's giving me more chance to serve him. He's making me healthy, or he's giving me facility to serve him. So either way, bad things happen or good things happen, you keep your positive attitude toward Krishna. And if you can do that, then it says, then you should be able to go back to Godhead. You see? In other words, whatever happens to you, it's another reason to thank Krishna for your situation. That's this verse about. This is Brahma speaks this to Krishna, 14th chapter, and famous, So that's what this is about. The bird, the Chataka bird. He's always praying for the rain, and the devotee is always praying for the mercy. And sometimes it may be painful. What happens is, Krishna's so kind. It could have been worse, and I deserve so much worse. Thank you, Krishna, and you keep serving. Well, forgive them, Father. They don't know what they do. That's the same mood. All right, we have to adjourn. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. And we will resume with text 19. Is it? No, we did 19. 20. 20.